Good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, Bhakti, you are audible.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Bhakti. On behalf of Grameen Foundation India, I take great pleasure and honor to welcome you all to the BEATS project webinar on going beyond the product training. The webinar aims to disseminate the findings of the study and discuss new ways of adopting and engaging, enriching, exciting training methodologies, and shift from training to capacity building of banking correspondents, that is BC agents. I would like to introduce Isha Sharma, Manager, Training and Development from GFI. She will present the findings and experiences of different researches conducted under BEATS project to identify the capacity gap analysis. Mr. Gaurav Sinha, Senior Program Manager from Client Insight from Impact team. He will be moderating the panel discussion and Q&A session. This workshop will be recorded for future references. Let's now welcome our gender expert, Purna Rai Chaudhary, Associate Director, Women's Economic Empowerment and Gender GFI, to take all of us through the webinar and product journey in perspective of training need assessment and gender sensitivity. We look forward to the interactive session ahead. Thank you so much. Over to you, Purna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhakti. Am I audible as well?
Yes.
Excellent. Good morning, everyone. So in continuation with the welcome note, I would like to quickly spell out the objectives of today's webinar, which is to disseminate the findings of capacity gap analysis, which was conducted by Grameen Foundation India, to reflect on the existing training structures being followed within BCNMs, to act as a catalyst to bring shift in the existing training practices, which is currently primarily focusing on product and processes, to now include capacitation around knowledge, skill, and attitude of BC agents, and to recommend the best possible practices that are being implemented and suggested by Grameen Foundation India with our learning from this project and interventions in this sector. So moving on with my presentation, a brief background on Grameen Foundation. So we were established in the year 1997 in the US, and Grameen Foundation India, which is a 100% subsidiary of Grameen Foundation USA, was registered in 2009, forming a part of the global Grameen Foundation network, working in over 24 countries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America for the last 25 years. And we are indeed inspired by the work of Nobel laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus, who showed to the world how thoughtful and inclusive interventions around supporting women through access to finance, growing their small businesses, and developing livelihoods can lead to a world without poverty and hunger. And that is, in fact, inspired us to formulate our mission statement and commit to enabling the poor, especially women, to create a world without hunger and poverty. So we work around 4 programmatic domains, which is on inclusive digital finance, agriculture and livelihood practices, women's economic empowerment, and health and nutrition. And in these domains, we collaborate with banks, financial institutions, farmer organizations, and women's collectives, working very, very closely with low-income people, women entrepreneurs, and farmers to build assets, grow their business, manage risks, and become so that they're able to become resilient and be empowered. Most importantly, in all our programs and interventions, we have a very, very strong and intentional gender focus, and we use a gender transformative lens to program design, implementation, and evaluation. Now, coming to this particular project, BEADS, within which today's webinar is housed. So, Grameen Foundation India, with support from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, is implementing the BEADS, which is Business Correspondent Experiments and Demonstrating Scale project, to test 3 hypotheses pertaining to the BC sector. Now, the project has designed 3 very innovative pilots around these hypotheses that are working in tandem to improve the viability of BC agents, towards strengthening the capacity of the BC agents, towards inclusion of women in the BC agent workforce, and to formulate the right mix of customer education efforts to encourage usage and adoption of digital financial services. So around to sticking to today's webinar, this particular intervention falls under the testing of hypothesis 2, which says that improved capacity, quality, and gender inclusivity of BC agents will increase customer acquisition and retention, which in turn will improve the viability and profitability of BC agents. So that is the crux of today's webinar. Moving on to the today's this webinar focuses specifically on the role and importance of capacity development initiatives at the BC level, and we will delve into the gaps, the opportunities, and brainstorm on the possible solutions and emerge with recommendations through our panel discussion that is outlined for today's webinar. And to set this premise, here is a background to what we have already done under the BEADS initiative. So under pilot 2 of this project, a training needs assessment was conducted to empirically understand the gaps in existing capacity building efforts of BCNMs, and to identify the learning needs of the stakeholders at the customer, at the BC agent, and at the BC employee level. And in tandem with the TNA, the BEADS project also conducted a gender gaps assessment of these BCNMs to further review and evaluate through a gender lens the existing approaches of the BCNMs, primarily in the realm of promoting gender diversity within their management and leadership, and in undertaking gender-sensitive recruitment, training, and upscaling of BC agents, specifically of women BC agents. Also, some of the key areas that were identified towards addressing this training and capacity gaps can be put in a nutshell, which is around, at the customer level, the participation of women in household financial decision making was dismal, and gender dialogues within the family are essential to help women realize their position within their family, and this is an essential step towards true financial inclusion of women. Now, at the BC agent level, there is a need for trainee content development, and that need to go beyond product training and include softer skills, for example, communications, grooming, and marketing. Also, gender and household dialogue was identified as a key tool to facilitate family support for the women BC agents to work effectively, helping them overcome some of the challenges which are related to gendered and social norms. And at the BC employee level, all the BC employees stated, who we kind of, interacted with, that it would be beneficial if they receive training around how to manage women BC agents. And gender sensitivity and training, related training, is a need widely recognized by the BC employees as a management skill needed in the current scenario. So, I now request my colleague Isha to take us through the findings of the training needs assessment and present to us how we are addressing some of these gaps and opportunities that have been identified in the TNA. So over to you, Isha, to take it forward.
Thank you, Poorna. Thank you for taking us through the project and also the briefs on capacity gap analysis with gender focus. Moving on. So as mentioned by Poorna, the background of this capacity gap assessment was to identify and bridge the gaps in training structures, methodology, and modules being followed. The methodology which we used was participatory discussions, one-to-one interviews with 3 stakeholders, which includes customers, BC agents, BC employees, and also the mid-level and senior level management teams of the BCNMs. So the findings which we are presenting to you are corroborated through the intensive quantitative and qualitative researches. So based on the quantitative research, what we can see here is around 78% of the BCs have responded that they have gone through some form of the training after onboarding. Also, around 88% of the BC agents have responded that the trainings are primarily focused on the product and processes. And it also says that very low focus is on the trainings which are related to the aspects of behavioral skills or soft skills, with gender being the least focus, which is around 2.3%. Now moving on. So we have some qualitative responses, which are also very similar to the quantitative responses. The qualitative responses says that the trainings are mostly limited to basics of banking, products, use, role, and responsibility. When we interviewed our business correspondent agents and asked them what are the most offered product and services to the customers, the top of the mind answers that they could recall were saving accounts and Kiko transactions, which shows that they are limited to very basic banking services. Very few mention RDFD and on prompting some social schemes. But this also shows that the commonly offered products are the ones which are low hanging for them, like Kiko transactions. So they find it more convenient and are more comfortable in doing such transactions, basic transactions, and that's why the focus is more on the product and processes. Similarly, there was very limited training on the functional skills, which are selling skills like need-based selling or cross-selling, etc., or anything which is related to customer service, say grievance handling, complaints handling, customer relationship. These kind of trainings were are being delivered very in a limited capacity. And there is also a lack of behavioral aspects and gender sensitivity trainings, which are very important to improve the BC agents' approach and conduct towards the opposite genders. So the entire findings suggest that although there are training happening, and trainings are primarily happening on the basics of banking or the basic products which are commonly used, but if we want that our business correspondent agents should go beyond the financial transactions of delivering basic transactions, they should the trainings should be focused on more soft skills aspects, selling skills, and customer relationship. Hence, when we have as I mentioned, that the findings are being presented from the multiple researches, and both the researches, which is baseline and training need assessment, they have shown some similar gaps. Like there is a gap in formal structured methodology being followed for the business correspondent agents. The primary training which is delivered to the business correspondent agents is on onboarding. Regular and refresher training in a structured format are not happening as it should happen, but the regular trainings or update on the products are normally done by the field supervisors during their visit to the business correspondents or during the normal business review discussions. But the structured formal refresher training based on the training calendars or focusing on the capacity building of the BC agents is a gap which needs to be fulfilled. Also, we found that online application has been leveraged in a very limited capacity. Although during COVID times, there was a shift in the learning mode and the meetings from the physical to the virtual platforms. So virtual platforms were used by BCNMs, and the positive part was that BC business correspondent agents adopted it and got themselves acquainted to various virtual platforms, which shows that there is a queue of transforming the learning into a digital learning for the business correspondent agents. But as of now, this is being leveraged in a very limited capacity. Even if the online modes are being used, there is the content is in very limited capacity, and also in English only, in English language, which is not very go-to language or a comfortable language for business correspondents in the different geographies. And the findings suggest that business correspondent agents have shown their inclination to learn through the digital platforms or digital mode of learning also, but if it is in their language, it is in their comfort, so that they can have the on-the-go learning as a self-paced learning mode. So then how we identified these gaps, as in how Beats project identified these gaps and address these gaps and opportunity with different interventions. So first here I want to present you is LMS, Learning Management System. We have a very different and very interesting experience of using a learning management system with our business correspondent agents. So we designed a unique interface for each of our partners, a customized interface for our partners with their own branding. Then the content, we have hosted a lot of content in the LMS, which is not restricted to banking product or services, but also includes BC's module, their role and responsibility, their scope of work, liquidity, cash budget, also digital banking, behavioral skills, selling skills, customer service skills, and gender. So we have incorporated much more than product and processes. Also, the content has been translated in 7 different languages as per the project's geography spread. So the content is in different languages, which includes Marathi, Kannada, Telugu, Gujarati, etc. So we have 7 different languages, and also one interesting part was the content is not just uploaded in the sense that we designed the content and uploaded that. We had the analysis wherein we identified the topic gap from the BCNMs. We discussed with them. We had a detailed discussion. We got to know what is their requirement, what is something with VC agents would want. There were multiple level of discussions. Based on that gap, the content was designed and uploaded in the system and provided to business correspondent agents. We have got good response. Business correspondent agents are going through the LMS. They are liking our content, and we have got good responses in the overall LMS system. Also, we have designed one comprehensive knowledge guide for the business correspondent agents, which can be used by the staff as well, business correspondent field staff. So the booklet is very, very comprehensive and contains everything which is related to banking, business correspondent modules, behavioral, selling, and gender topics. So it is a comprehensive booklet which can be used by business correspondent agents through online mode or in a hard copy format for their quick reference. So these are the major development in regards to content around LMS. Also, the content has been customized as per the preference of the BCNMs, considering their geographies. Then the interesting part is the customer centricity training. As we have seen through the findings, and also what we know is that business correspondent trainings are primarily focused on product and processes. Also, the refreshers, as I mentioned, are given by a sales team in their regular meetings or regular visits. But if we want our business correspondent agents to move from the transactional relationship where they are only providing cash in, cash out transactions to look beyond it and have a sustainable long-term relationship with the customers, which results in customer acquisition and also customer retention, thereby increasing their productivity, viability, and of course their income and growth. It is important to not only focus on one segment, which is product and process, but also focus on selling skills, software parts, and customer service skills. Hence, we amalgamated an entire module and weaved these 3 topics, which are in itself a different territory, but we weaved them together, which is selling skills, soft skills, and customer service, and created the entire module customer centricity training. This module was not just developed based on our understanding or based on some theoretical knowledge, but we also used adult learning principles where we focused on 5 W's on why, what for, how are we going to, where and how are we going to do this. So this was done physically and virtually to ensure that we are using the hybrid system to understand which part of the training is impacting more and how even hybrid can be utilized to deliver these trainings down the line. So we used hybrid model wherein we did physical and the virtual platform trainings. this training, as I mentioned, was done through adult learning principles. We also ensured that this is not a monologue or a theoretical training, but we made a use of different activities in the training, and these activities were not a kind of the thing wherein we are telling them that this is a gap. In spite, within the activities, they identified the gap in their own learning, in their approach, in their conduct, in their working styles, and there is when the learning happened, and learning started happening through through adult learning principles and other modes. Also, we use different designing models like ADDIE model to design the content and ensure that visual, auditory, and kinesthetic styles of the learners are being used. Hence, with all these preparations, we had a very good response from the business correspondents, which I will be sharing in testimonials in upcoming slides. But giving you here an interesting bite, we have very interesting feedback videos from our business correspondent agents where they have categorically mentioned that we have not received these kind of trainings. What we have so far learned is about saving account, RDFD, Jan Dhan Yojana, social schemes, but we never knew that this is also something which is important. Hence, here I would also like to add one very important point. Although these business correspondent agents have very good relationship with their customers, considering they are from same locality, region, and geography, but it is also important to inculcate empathetic and considerate skills in them, so as to they can identify their need and offer the product accordingly and not do push selling or force selling. Hence, the entire module was revolving around the customer needs, empathy, providing customer-centric solution, and building long-term relationship, which included handling complaints, managing grievances, and giving a delightful experience to customers. Then moving on to the gender sensitive and gender household dialogue training. This is again a very, very important part of the project, because as we saw in the first slide, the gender trainings are very, very low focus. Why this is important is, after extensive discussions with the top management and middle management, what we realized was that there is a gap in understanding of managing, recruiting, and selecting women VCs, as the challenges being faced by the male counterparts are different from the female VCs. Also, one important part we saw was that there is a generic training, which is on generic training modules and happening for male counterparts and the female counterpart. Although the female counterpart, female VC agents have very unique and challenging challenges, which might not be same as male BCs. So what as of now we are following is umbrella trainings, umbrella methodology in regards to selection also, which needs to be changed as per the gender. Also, the top issues, the top challenges which we identified based on the discussions during our different interventions were that women face mobility issues. They face issues in mobility issues in the sense to visit branches frequently, because either they don't have their own mode of vehicle where they can drive or go, or they are not allowed by the family. They need to take permissions to go to and fro to the branches or customer house for various activity. So there has been seen that the mobility issue is raised by RBCNM. Also, there is one important part that, as I mentioned, that we are doing umbrella training, but it came out as a need that both female might need more training on the technical aspect, and hence the training module needs to be customized from the female point of view as well. Third important part is limited timing, as she is limited timing and lack of household support, as she is into multiple work wherein she has to mention how she has to take care of household chores as well and her business correspondent daily business. So that becomes difficult for her to manage time and give her 100% to the business in case she has lack of support from her family, because the family still consider her work as secondary in comparison to her husband's work. So although she is contributing to the family's income, but she is still not seen as an enabling source of income or as the prime source of income. Hence it becomes on the mercy of the family to support her to become a viable and effective business correspondent agent. The solution which Grameen Foundation proposed and also conducted was gender and household dialogue trainings. For that, the customized unique dialogue training kit was designed, and trainings were conducted at the HO level, so that the training is not only limited to the ground or to the above. In fact, the entire gender sensitivity goes down from top to the down till BC agents. And hence we conducted these trainings, and we have got really good responses from the trainings. And now these are being downloaded to the business correspondent agents, because BCNMs need to support the household of the BCs, to ensure that they also understand that how women BCs are also contributing to the community and to the household income. Next, very important part which we did is augmented reality. This is first of the kind, wherein we are working on the experiences based on augmented reality to increase the awareness on the demand side. Although there is a lot of work being done on the supply side for the BCs, customer awareness camps are also held for the customers, but it is much more important to increase the awareness of the customers to know why the BCs exist, where the BCs exist, and also on the basic banking. So taking the cue from the findings of the TNA, where it was found when we interviewed our business correspondent agents and asked them that how do they educate and guide customers, and how do you think that customers respond to them? So their answers were: one, customer seems not interested, they don't have time, they want to come do transactions and go, they don't seem interested to be educated or guided. Or number two, BCs also mentioned that we do not have time to educate or guide customers specifically for this. We can only tell them what transaction we are doing. So most of the time they are only following the BCs blindly, and they does not really know what the product means, how it is going to benefit them. Hence, we are now coming up with we did lot of customer awareness camps with customized module training for customers, but with augmented reality we are giving a opportunity in the hands of the learner. We are giving the control in the hand of the learner to learn as per their own choice. Hence, customer is not necessarily need to come to the camps. Camps are in itself a success, but when they want to have a self-paced learning at their own comfort, that is where augmented reality we are coming up with. Also, when I say that we are giving the control to the customer, this means that the customer, he or she can check on the experiences as per their own requirement. So if I as a customer only want to check how to operate the card in the ATM, I can do that. But if someone wants to know about the safety, the person can go experience that with AR. So this is some very interesting part which is being done for customer awareness. And here we are working on more than around 10 experiences on savings, banking, product and services to engage customers. And as I mentioned, I would be taking you through the testimonials where BC agents, women and male, says about these kind of training, which includes soft skill, gender and behavioral aspects, which is beyond the product and processes. So business correspondent agent voices: it was eye-opening to know small gestures and body language matter so much. It was first kind of the training focusing on our soft skills. The training was really helpful in figuring out how to engage and build trust with customers. Now, I will invite all of you for a quick Mentimeter game. So request to please log into your mobile, menti.com, as mentioned in the screen, menti.com. The code is, as mentioned on the screen, 25433973. 25433973. You all are requested to please go through the screen, and there is a question which says, what do you think are the most important skills needed to be imparted in BC agents? Quickly write the skills, as many as you want. Please write the skills, restrict in words, not in the, please don't write in sentences, just keep giving us different words, and let's see if your responses matches what are BC's voices. Giving you all around 30-40 seconds to please help us with the responses. Menti.com. Request to please log in into menti.com and enter your code 25433973 and quickly write down the skills. I am sharing the responses for you all, and then we can have a look at BC's voices. Another 30 seconds for the same. So keep giving the responses till I move on to next slide and show you if your thoughts are aligned with RBC's voices. Okay, here's the time. So I'm very, very glad to see some of the responses, most of the responses are aligned to what BCs are saying, and also wherein you have given us some really interesting responses which might not be there in the screen, we will add for our library. So here are some of the responses. So on the soft skills part, as I say this, these are not particular topic. These were the thematic areas when we asked business correspondent agents, what do they think, what kind of training do they want? So hence some training on the soft skills part, which is grooming skills, because when we did training with them on grooming skills, of course, it is not easy to do grooming skills kind of training with the adults. But hence, when we told them that why it is important for them, although people are from the same locality, they are from the same region, but when they are representing the BC business, they are representing the brand, the BCNM, the bank, it is important for them to be like one, to represent like one. And they very warmly welcomed our discussions, and hence agreed that grooming skills kind of training is also very important to them. When I say this, we also ensured that the training is not related to urban context, but a rural context. When we do a grooming skill training in urban, the context would be very different, which includes formal dressing and very restricted dressing. But when we do the trainings for the rural, we ensure that the grooming skill training is not something which is overwhelming them or which is very difficult for them to follow. It was considered from the point of view that they follow their culture, they are well within their culture, and also are comfortable in that kind of dressing. So we focused on dressing which was more easy for them, comfortable for them, important for them, and importantly, their own hygiene factors. So grooming skill and similarly effective communication skills efficiently serve the customers of opposite gender. Although they mentioned that all the other women, so suppose I'm talking about male BCs, so they women BCs, they know and they have that respect for each other considering they are from same locality and region. But some things which are related to confidentiality, trust, how to guide women BCs for her savings, women customers for her saving, these were some important elements which were covered in training, and hence our BCs liked that training and wanted to get more trained on gender aspect as well. Similarly, customer relationships, so that they can move beyond the transactional relationship to long-term relationship. Technical aspects, though the process training and technical trainings are the part of their regular curriculum, but training such as how to handle the troubleshooting, how to handle wrong failed transactions, what to do next, where to raise, how to raise, and how long to wait to complete the training. These were some important aspects which they raised. Risk and fraudulent associated. So at times they are doing some practices which they might not be aware are risky or fraud, are coming under the fraudulent purview. So it was important to sensitize them on these aspects. and hence different investment schemes. Because when we want our business correspondent agents to go beyond the financial transaction and look themselves as a goal planner, a financial goal advisor, or a relationship manager, it is also important for them to know the different investment products for their own knowledge and also to guide customers accordingly. Similarly, grievance redressal policy and a present mechanism in banks was important for them, because their knowledge was only limited to telling it to the field supervisor, and they did not know how the grievance redressal policy can not only benefit them but also their customers. So these are the presenting here are not limited only to this. We have made a huge scope of a huge product, a huge library of the content, which is now shared with our BCNMs under the BEADS project and being used by them. As we always say, in the limited time frame, it's not that we can all do 100%. Hence there are the room left for a lot of improvement. For example, the BCs also focused on that they want shorter duration trainings, which also says shorter duration, and would want to try self-paced learning, which gives us the way that small engaging bite-sized learning and different videos, capsule videos, are something which should be there in the LMS for their own comfort and ease, so that during their working hours, if they get quick 5 minutes or 2 minutes, they can go through concept wherever they want. And digital banking is something which they are liking, and a lot of content is also developed on digital banking. So some videos on digital banking or behavioral aspect where they can understand the video, learn the essence. So some videos engaging different formats which shows different role plays, these kind of videos and content needs to be added to the content library and not restrict only to the detailed PPTs or PDFs. With this, I will close my findings and invite my team member, Gaurav Sinha, who is a moderator of the session today, to please invite and introduce the industry experts to have insightful and interesting discussions with the panelists. Gaurav, over to you. Request to please invite and introduce our panelists.
So thank you, Isha, for that engaging presentation. And I'm hoping we have a stellar lineup of thought leaders from the industry today. And I'm hoping we have a very engaging discussion for the next 50 minutes. So first of all, I will request all the panel members to switch on their videos so everyone can also see you guys. And let me introduce you to the lineup today. So we have in attendance Mr. Vimal Tripathi, who is the head VC management at HDFC Bank. He has over 3 decades of rich experience across multiple aspects of the BC business, including agriculture banking, agri-value chain financing, rural banking, microfinance, financial inclusion, rural payment systems, etc. Next, we have Mr. Suryakant Mohanty, who is the CEO at Bharat Financial Inclusion Limited. He has over 22 years of experience in retail banking and has been associated with several leading banks, including ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, Yes Bank, and IndusInd Bank. His core areas of interest include rural banking, microfinance, retail strategy, and he is also very much interested in uses of AI, ML, and deep learning in the industry. Next, we have Ms. Preeti Telang. She is a development professional with over 25 years of experience in diverse thematic areas, including education, health, financial inclusion, and microfinance. She is currently working with Suryodaya Foundation as a consultant, which is a CSR initiative of Suryodaya Small Finance Bank. And prior to this, she was the CEO of Strategic Advisor at Swadhar FinAccess, and she is also credited as a co-founder of Training Resource and Media Production, a collective of media professionals committed to the cause of development communication. We also have in attendance Dr. Ruski Mahal, who is a doctorate in microfinance from Pune University and has been working in the social development and microfinance space for over a decade now in various roles. She is currently working with HDFC Ergo, general insurance company, where she takes care of CSR and employee volunteering. Prior to this, she headed the knowledge management function of inclusive and social banking division of Yes Bank, which is involved in the capacity building of VC and social development initiatives. And last but not the least, we have in attendance Piyush Singh. who is the digital finance services and fintech professional, who is leading the Beats project currently at Grameen. And he has worked in the remittance business, fintech, digital payments, e-governance, microfinance, as well as the BC correspondent business. So welcome everyone, and looking forward to a very engaging conversation in the next 50 minutes. So a few house rule for the audience in attendance. You can post the questions in the chat box, and towards the end, if time permits, we will take all those questions and post them to the panel in attendance. So yeah, building on to the presentation that Isha shared with all the audiences here, I would like to hear from all the panelists on how do you see the training and capacitation needs of the BCs have evolved over the years and how they will shape up in the future. So I would like everyone to have maybe 1.5 minutes of time to kind of express their thoughts on this particular thing. And maybe let's start with Vimal sir.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Gaurav. I hope I'm audible. Um, uh, First of all, thank you for having me here. A very, very interesting and close to heart topic, I would say, because I particularly have been working in this sort of space for a long while. It's very dear to me in that sense, and happy to see that it is now sort of coming to a stage where, it can come on the center stage. Why I say that is, I mean, we all know that India is growing, right? We are talking about 5 trillion, 10 trillion, and all that. And banking will have its own share of the spotlight. And if banking has the share, then business correspondent will have that share also. That's my feeling. Within the bank, if you look at it, we are, putting all our might behind this channel. In fact, now we have a separate division which we call as ABC, which is alternate banking channels. And, it's like, for a lack of a better word, I say it's like a bank within a bank. Because the idea is that, or the management ambition is that in the next maybe 3 years, this channel should be contributing to, more than the branch banking channel, which is the main sort of retail division. So I think nothing can be more serious than that. Having said that, I just would like to underline, I think, what is already belabored here to a large extent by your findings and what Isha has put out. Is that when you are talking about these kind of numbers and when you are talking about the brand, I mean, the BC's role becomes very, very critical. BC is handling the brand. So for the customer, BC is the bank, right? He is absolutely the face of the bank. Any errors of omission or commission by the BC are bank's error, and even regulatorily, the banks are bound by whatever he does. So it's one and the same thing. So I think that one key thing underlines that there is a big requirement that the BC should also come up to the level, or they should become pseudo bankers, should I say. However, we should also be mindful of the fact that despite our, whatever we might say, there are very few BCs who are only dependent on the BC income. So BC for them always is an additional income or supplementary income which they use. So obviously their mind will rather focus on those areas which give them better income streams or larger income streams. So this is a very different kind of challenge that one has to manage as far as training is concerned. Because the BC might be tempted to sort of bring in some of those practices into banking. Banking is a very highly regulated banking insurance. I see representation from all around here. So to that extent, I just wanted to again underscore that requirement that BCs, since they are handling the bank brand, since they are handling the customer, I think the training aspect cannot be overemphasized. And within that training aspect, the service aspect, which is necessarily linked to your soft skills, though even acquisition is linked to your soft skill, but I say service aspects also, because currently what complaints, etc., that we receive are more on that side. So that's where I'm saying it cannot be overemphasized. So, I mean, those were the few opening thoughts that I have. We can build on this as we discuss. Over to you, Gaurav.
Yeah. Mr. Suryakant, can we hear your thoughts on the question?
Yeah, thanks, Gaurav. It was nice to be here. And in fact, I'm meeting with Isa, Bimal sir after so long. And thank you, Grameen, at least to organize all this. So, to my mind, we have to go into a little bit of genesis of all these things. Starting from a DSA in liability, then DSA stopped, BC started. The DSA concept was completely different concept where you source a liability account and then hand it over to the bank. And then over a period of time, we started the BC, and the initial days were purely on the same line, either a loan or a liability, but you do that sourcing part of it. And it is more of a pooling kind of product. So added to that, Jandhan, the Jam Trinity helped, whatever it is. But the BCs were not into the selling skill, all those things. We just started with, if I remember the initial days, so we just started with application form filling, product knowledge, ye 2, 3, 4, 5 चीजें तेरे को बताना है और you get it done. But now the things have completely changed. You don't need to fill the form. You just have to put the Aadhaar card in the tab and everything gets captured and you just have to submit them. So that part is almost all over. So now it is time to go to the second stage probably. We have not gone there. It is a long way because we are still struggling at product stage. We have to go into that, that's a futuristic kind of thing, value proposition. We have to talk about the selling skills, relationship management, and all those things, but still we are struggling at the product stage. If I put my mind into it, there are two aspects to it. This is a continuous journey process. We are still, stuck with the BC certification kind of activity. Ek BC certificate hai, itna karna hai, you have to get it done. Probably we have now to scale it up to a graded certification like JIAB, CIAB, and all those things, or maybe a the Hindi word, better words like entry, middle, super middle, and all those things, and going to a BC who is trained or certified to have a complete, say, I am handling FMCG, I am also eligible in FMCG kind of thing, I can handle asset, I can handle sales. So graded wise, so those who are coming new, they will go to this normal standard BC certification process where they have to know the transaction operation, know the product and all those things. Thereafter, they have to go upgrade level 2, in which they will be selling skill and all those things, level 3 and level 4. And accordingly, the payout will also get defined, because everything, as Bimal sir said, everything decides in the payout. If he knows by getting one more certification, I will be getting into more kind of say 500 or 1,000 rupees more per month, then obviously he will go ahead. So those things I'm looking at last 10 to 10, 15 years and future 5 years, probably this kind of things which going to happen or happening in the market. That's my kind of initial thoughts. We'll build on that.
Thanks for that, Mr. Suryakant. Ms. Preeti, we would like to hear from you what else needs to be done to prepare the BCs for the future. What kind of capacitation is needed for them to tackle the future markets?
So, thanks so much, Gaurav, and thanks, Grameen, for the invitation. And it was interesting to see the findings of TNA and what the assessments were. Having seen the BC model very closely since 2008 and handled a little bit of the BC model when it was in its very, very nascent, primitive stage, to now where it is evolved in 2020, we saw how the BCs played such a crucial role during the pandemic and in disbursements, the DBT disbursements, and the acceptance of the BC model from then to what it is today. Now BC no longer is a non-acceptable model. It is a very, very acceptable model, not only by the banks, but also by the customer at the grassroots. Now the customer accepts a BC. The customer knows that this is the person where I can go and do the transaction very closely. So we now know that BC is the model that is allowing us to go to the last mile, and it is a very, very acceptable model. Having said that, I think it's no brainer that this is going to be the future with all the technology disruption, AEPS becoming helping to do transactions so seamlessly well. This is the model that is going to scale, and therefore, how do we train them, make them capable to deliver to the last mile? Is what we really need to look at. Also, one of the things that I'm really curious to see how we can work closely with the regulator. How do we work with RBI? Because RBI has asked for a certification of BC. And how does all this align so that it becomes a model that is scalable? At the same time, the training meets the regulators' guidelines. And at the same time, it also enables all the companies to become capable to do this training. Secondly, as Suryakant very well put, because everything boils down to that incentive. What am I going to earn at the end of the day? Even if I'm a Kirana BC, or if it's an SSG BC, whatever model it is, how much am I going to earn? And how is this training enabling me to earn better? So whether it should be a graded kind of a training, which enables with only a SICO kind of a transactional to moving to other products. Because right now it is only a cash in, cash out kind of a model. But how do we make them capable to do also the other products, which are more sticky products, and which will enable them to make more incentives? And I think the training definitely becomes crucial to do it. And whether it's a soft skill training, it is a customer-centric training, or also grievance addressal training, because that is one very, very crucial piece. Otherwise, the regulator is going to come back to us on that. So I think those are my thoughts, initial thoughts on this, but I think we are embarking on a really long journey there.
Definitely agree with you, Mr. Preeti. Dr. Ruski, I would like to hear your thoughts on what needs to be done to prepare the BCs for the future markets.
Thank you, Gaurav. And it was actually a great presentation. In fact, a lot of things that I was wondering and I've been thinking in the past few years while I was doing BC training, I think you've addressed a lot of them in the presentation that Isha showed. And I'll just probably add a couple of points which I thought were different and things that came to my mind. So I think we should also dwell upon what are the reasons for the shift. So of course, we're shifting from a typical product training. We're currently talking about doing soft skills. So is it just a regulatory requirement? Is it something that is really required? I feel it is required, and we've seen this, especially in times of crisis. So whenever there's crisis in any form, largest example is the microfinance sector when it faced a crisis. So all these times, what happened and what we saw mostly is that repayments and all were coming in mostly in areas where the BCs had a great bonding with the customer. So maybe yes, soft skill is very important, and it will give them an edge. And when I say that, it is also reflecting on how competitive this market has become. So BC market, when we speak of, currently this is a model which has proven to be successful. It's doing great. Most important, it is endorsed by the government. Everybody is talking about it, and they want this to be a great success in the coming years. So definitely there are a lot of banks, pretty much all banks were doing it. There are a lot of financial companies also which have come in and they have adopted BC model. So while they're all doing this, there is a lot of saturation, there are a lot of players in the market. So what is that differentiation factor which will help this particular BC agent to get more customers and hence more transaction and hence more money into their pocket? That is also something, probably an organization can think of. And while they think about this, then maybe there'll be quite a few steps and quite a few important things that they may want to take up. And training, I believe, is going to be one of the most critical and important factors over there. Another very important thing that Mr. Suryakant also spoke of is about how is it going to help that particular person. So the particular BC, if the BC is just thinking about, this is another thing that I'm doing, just giving me an additional income, maybe soft skill and all is still not going to make any sense to them. Even after, they'll just think of it as, another thing that I'm doing. But the moment they feel, or if there is an aspiration created out of this, if that BC agent thinks that, this can become a career for me, this can help me probably get into the mainstream banking, this could probably help getting me into another job which will get me paid really well, then maybe that person will take up training very it'll be a very important thing for that BC agent. So they should also think about it as a career progression medium and a step which will help them move forward in their careers. So that is when they will probably think about it's not just about talking to customers, it is also about talking to peers, it's about handling stakeholders, it's about uh, having a great bonding with police, anybody who's working in that particular area, because you can't just work in silos and still be able to do great business. And the third important thing that I thought was to link all of this with your hub branches. So I also think that, we always probably think of BC agents as an outsourced employee, not even an employee. Let's say they're just an agent for us, as the name suggests. So the moment we start, bringing them into our own fold as an organization, then maybe if we think of linking them to a branch, linking them to a branch's performance, linking them to the branch's training requirements, then you will also start thinking of a BC agent to be as important as any other employee. You will also think about what really is the requirement, training requirement for that particular BC agent. And you may want to incentivize it, you may want to recognize the branch and the BC agent. So all of this will probably, help bring them into that fold, help making this more systematic and bring a better results than what we are probably doing now. So these were certain things that I wanted to highlight.
Thanks, Dr. Rushki. Piyush, I would like you to reflect on the points that Dr. Rushki and the other panelists make. How the BCNMs can actually address these concerns and maybe prepare the BC agents to tackle all these challenges. Yeah.
So thanks, Gaurav. Hope I'm audible. So definitely, I was listening to all the ideas, and that's really great to learn from the industry experts. But when we started off this project Beats, the two mandate we had was that how can we increase the income of the BC agents and how can we have more gender sensitivity within the BC industry. So having said that, we thought that what can we do in order to increase the income of the BC agents? Then we came on three hypotheses that has been explained. In the second hypothesis, we thought that, okay, if income is the main, I would say, core or anchor for the BC agent and the BCNM or a bank or a company, then let's kind of, now what is happening is relationship with the BC agent and customer is very transactional. You come, you take your cash, you go out. You come, you take say a social security, any scheme, and then you go out. Then we thought, let's move beyond that and let's have some change management practices where we want to change the mindset of some of the BCNM, stating that soft skills are not a different skill set that they need to learn. It helps you to increase number of customers, to retain them, also helps in cross-selling and also customer grievance, right? So when these things are done, the average customer lifetime value of per BC agent, per BCNM, and everything else improves. So it's not a different skill. It probably, what has happened is that maybe we would have given financial inclusion or say transaction from very business-minded aspects. So that what has happened is that everybody is now talking about transactions, right? And hence BC agents are also oriented that if I have to earn A, B, C amount or X amount of money, these are certain things we have to do. So what started off as a very noble cause of extending the banking financial services has become pure, say, business, which is okay to some extent, but it also helps them to become a relationship manager. That's also one of the concepts we are testing on the beats, that can some of the BC agents be graduated as a relationship manager into their local community, kind of a financial, say, health doctor, that, okay, if you have this kind of problem, you can go for this product. And what are the challenges that we can solve? Biggest challenge right now is fraudulent SMS calls, right? But these customers do not know where to go. So can a BC agent be graduated to the level though, so that they say, okay, you don't have to answer these calls. You don't have to answer these SMS. While these may not translate to the business directly at that point in time, but it will build a long-term relationship through which a bank or a BCNM can do a cross-selling and can have a cross-selling or relationship-based selling, I would say. Because now we are moving, as Mr. Mohanty was also saying, that basic has been taken care by the technology, right? You do not need an intervention to do a checklist. Now we have technology, everything will be taken care automatically. Now what we need to do is in a human aspects of it, and that will actually further help into our business. So yeah, so that was my initial thought, Gaurav. I think we can build on that. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Piyush. I think there's a lot of things that we need to ponder and take from this particular conversation and build on in our subsequent approaches to address this aspect. So I would now like to move on to one another aspect that Isha had highlighted during her presentation. Uh, I feel that the technology that we are posing as a solution, this technology has been available to us for quite some time, but there has been some kind of resistance in terms of adoption of the same from the BC industry. Why do you think the industry has not been able to leverage this technology integration in the best possible way? Where are the challenges lie, and how we can address them? So maybe Ms. Preeti, we can start from you this time.
I think adoption of technology, especially in training, my read is that we have a variety of VCs spread across the corners of this country. I think during COVID, we saw that everybody was online and the full education system worked online. But now that the schools have reopened, we also see that the students are, especially from low income communities, are academically 2 years behind. That's the situation. And if I have to draw the similar kind of parallels to BC trading, I think that is what I would draw, because you have variety of business correspondents. Somebody in a remote village in Jharkhand to somebody sitting in Mumbai. And then the use of technology, the availability of technology would differ. And perhaps that is where the gap is. Secondly, still we have not come to the stage where the entire learning is possible online. So what Isha said in her presentation is something very relevant, where you require very small kind of capsules, small bite-sized modules, which may help in acceptance of technology and learning via the technology. But somewhere the tech and touch is where we still will have to look at. Completely technology is maybe the reason is still not everybody is, because the literacy levels of BCs are different. Availability of the timings of BC is different, because a BC who is doing this only as a supplementary would maybe not log on online and learn so much as to somebody who is looking this as a full-time kind of a business. A woman BC who sees this as a full-time occupation would use technology differently than a BC sitting in an urban center who is has 10 businesses and this becomes one of his business, would look it at differently. And I think that's my read why technology is not getting fully accepted and online training is the way to go. Maybe I'm not completely sure on it. I would still say that would be requirement of a human interface with technology, because technology would be needed to scale it up, but somewhere the human interface would be required to internalize and accept the training.
Thanks for that, Ms. Preeti. I completely agree with the thoughts that you shared. Vimal sir, I would like to learn from you. In your opinion, how we can optimize technology? Obviously, presents a very opportunity for us to be leveraged, but how we can use it in the best possible way to that so that it doesn't pose as a problem for the BCs, but it acts as a enabling agent for them.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we are also grappling with. How to sort of infuse people. Technology, as you rightly said, was available, and it will continue to become more and more available with the coming of better with better dispensation mechanisms. I think technology will also. One of the items that I feel when we talk to the BCs is that they are not interested in too much of a academic kind of a training. They want something very contextual. What I mean by that is that if while interacting, let's say with a customer, the BC is stuck at a point, or even if it's on his own, he's stuck at a point. He just wants the information for that particular point at that particular instance. And if it is happening like that, it works the best. It sticks for a while in his, thought process. And to that extent, we are also trying to, integrate some of our tools, like maybe a chatbot or something, which can immediately, help him with whatever topic that he is looking at. I think that's one of the things which really helps when it comes to this. The other piece that I find is that when people hear their peers, maybe on a YouTube and maybe on any other social media platform, that is more convincing rather than some kind of a centralized or studio-based training. I mean, it's always best to have a peer-on-peer kind of interaction, which really helps. And some of the times, what happens is that as a supply side, we are not able to realize what exactly is the question that is niggling in the.
Vimalji, can't hear you.
I also missed out on the last 10 seconds of Vimal sir's. I think there's some issue. Okay. Moving on to some of the facts that Sir said. I think.
Yeah, sorry, am I audible? I think I lost the connection for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that those are some of the experiences that we have had as far as training is concerned. And I think technology can very easily tackle them. And most of the interventions going forward, I see, at least from our side, will be directed in this, on this route. Yeah, so thanks.
Thanks, sir. So, building on what Vimal sir shared, that peer learning can be a very effective tool. We are currently living in a world where we are connected with each other very easily through social media and other platforms. Dr. Ruski, I would like to understand how we can leverage this peer-to-peer learning using technology, if at all. Do you think that's a possibility, and how we can go about operationalizing?
Sure. So why don't I share some of my experience while we were doing this? So, since I had mentioned that I was working in the whole BC training space itself, so I remember that there were a lot of times that we were struggling on how to. So there's a what and how to it. Content. Yes, we probably are all aware about what the content should be, but the how part of it was very, very difficult. So we thought that why not use WhatsApp, which probably nobody is going to come and say we don't use WhatsApp. We don't know how to use WhatsApp. So when we gave them links, there were complaints saying that, this link doesn't work, this needs a lot of internet, we are unable to use it. So when we said WhatsApp and we started giving them content on WhatsApp, which were bite size, which were videos from peers, there were audio and video from maybe one of their fellow colleagues or another area, and there were case studies and role plays which were shared with the BC agents. I think that worked the best for us because that is something that they quickly could look at whenever they had time. They also came back to us and said that, we use this for showing it and training our customers as well. So that also had worked out very well with us because we just did probably a minute's video, and we used to send it to the BC agents, and they came back saying that, this works really well because we learn from this. It is easy to learn. It is in the local language, and last thing, that they can very easily show it to the customer. So customer, when she gets really bored of listening to the same voice, looking at the same person, they also get interested when they look at different stuff. So that was working. And another peer-to-peer learning, what I think really works well, is competitive spirit. So, we used to have these things wherein points for learning, points for completing sessions, points for ensuring that you have given tests and the kind of marks that you get. So they used to have these leaderboards, which then encourage them to understand what level am I at. Sometimes it worked as a positive enabler also, and sometimes it did get issues. But I think it was more positive than negative. So that is another thing that really worked well, wherein they could there was a competitive spirit between the BC agents. And another thing is, when we'll be able to track all of this, that is also important. Just giving it to BC agents and expecting that they will do it is not going to help. We'll need to track all of this. We'll need to give them feedback that this is where you are, this is how much you've learned, and this is another set of modules that you should be learning. That is when they also think that somebody is really invested. There's somebody else also who's looking at it. So these are certain things I thought that maybe while doing can help in the whole technology learning piece.
Thanks for that. Mr. Mohanty, I would like to hear your thoughts as well on the aspect.
Gaurav, actually, I'm a very technology enthusiast.
Yeah.
So I always believe that technology can solve any problem and every problem except hunger in this world, and somewhere hunger can be solved also. So I'll tell you a few things which we have experienced in different startup. I'm currently associated with primarily on microfinance kind of thing. So RBI changed the rule on the household survey of a team of 20,000 people to be trained on a new system with only 200 training managers. Imagine the impact. So what was the solution? So what we did was, I had a Telegram account with 6,000 people attached to me. So just a streaming session, because this is a compelling activity, you don't have other option to do. If you stop doing this, then you can do the transaction next day, right? So it is a compelling activity for me and for them also. So now it is online, maximum people participated, and the information got downloaded. So what I'm saying, in the training, I would put it into two aspects. One is just a information, another is the bringing the changes in the person. So the training into the information part can be highly digitalized. Say, sitting at one point, somebody in Mumbai can put a message to 2 lakh people in a Telegram channel or WhatsApp, as Dr. Rusty was saying, and immediately aapke server mein you have some problem in the morning. So your server has some problem. The last guy, as a BC agent, he gets frustrated because his transaction is not going. This is just an information flow. He doesn't need anything else. The server is down and we need 30 minutes or 40 minutes. That message doesn't go rightly to the so I put it into the information bucket where the BC agent is also interested, the organization is also interested. The only thing is there is a channel. This can be highly managed in the digitalized space. But if you say I will do a personal grooming activity on a digital channel, so probably that needs I know some innovative steps, like there are many things, I am not going into that, but that needs something else. So the training part, information should be handled in the digital channel of it, and the upliftment, I would say that in the absence of a better word, the upliftment activity probably should be done offline. In addition to that, I will tell you very small, another 30 seconds. If you see, there are so many things happening on the digital space in the, just few days back, one Amazon guy who was doing a delivery, he did all his days thing online, and everybody enjoyed it. So that kind of activity for a BC has to be initiated, where the BCs are on the Facebook and most of them are WhatsApp. So that has to be streamlined so well and so designed so well that the information gets downloaded to the BC in an interesting way, not in a pushing way ki ye information you need to see it. It's not like that. He consumes it as it comes. So entities like Grameen probably should collaborate with everyone, create some basic marks. I mean to say ki every organization has some priorities. Isa was highlighting that we were doing their logo and their thing. So, but there are certain things which are basic. It doesn't need any logo or something. So those things needs to be abundantly available in a consumable manner, in a localized manner, online, and all those things, and that to be promoted. That is one part. And another thing Dr. Uslu was saying on the viability part of it, I think Gaurav, you were saying, or somebody was saying on the viability part of it. So BC as a service has been a long demand. So why multiple banks cannot sell the product of their own at the same BC point? It is kind of a just go and avail that service. That is it is just as a software as a service and all those BC as a service. One point, you go there, there are every product which is listed. If you are eligible, then click it and go it and throw it away. Probably entities like say Paisa, the loan giving apps, who as aggregator apps. So why BC cannot be aggregator app for that locality, and go for the income and more, and with all these logical things, internet and networking, that is not much difficult nowadays. So those are the thoughts on the training downloading part to the BC from my side.
Thanks for that, sir. Since we are on the topic of technology, I would like to pose the next question to Piyush, because as Isha presented in her presentation, that the Beats team is doing some work on the XR augmented reality aspect. I would like to understand from him what are some of the most important use cases of this augmented reality technology in terms of training that he foresees can be useful for the industry.
Thanks, Gaurav. So I will just limit my points to specific to 3 points only. Number one, when we were delivering this training to BC agents on soft skills, one of the most prominent, I would say, responses that actually hit us too hard was that BC agent said, "ये सब training bankers को भी देनी चाहिए." शायद जो ब्रांच में बैंकर बैठे उनको भी पता होना चाहिए कि BC agents और कस्टमर से बात कैसे करते हैं. I would also quote one of the things that I heard say from one of the person I was interviewing. She said that, for example, if a customer goes to a bank branch and trying to fill up a form, right? And agar koi branch manager just say holds her hand to fill up the form, that's where the financial exclusion starts, right? The lady will never go to the bank branch again because someone just held her hand to fill up the form, right? That could be a very small behavioral aspect, but it actually excludes the person to avail that service, right? That is not very common because of now Aadhaar, but that is also one of the examples I would say. So many of the BC agents said that the training that you are offering, like a behavioral, soft skill, everything, that should be imparted to everyone in the bank branches as well, and not only to the BC agents. So that is one point I would like to mention. Second is that I will give you three trends through which we can be very excited about why we are using technology as a training platform. Number one, the mobile penetration has increased. Cost of internet has gone down. And then we also have, say, just and then we also have, say, a gamification going up. Like people in rural areas use smartphone for video, for game, for WhatsApp, for videos. So then we thought, if gamification is going up, if there is a more availability of a smartphone and also cost of internet has gone down, can we use augmented reality? What it does is that it actually gives an augmentation. It feels like as if you are standing near the ATM, right? It just says that, okay, ATM is there on your, say, on your table desk. So what you can do is that you can just press that button, you can have a virtual kind of an experience. So what it helps to do is to remove the fear of unknown. They can actually experience an ATM much before then actually they go and visit it, right? We are also simulating a bank branch, that if a customer can actually on their own mobile phone and does not need a high-fi mobile phones, you just need a basic Android phone or a iPhone, depending on what kind of application is this. You can just understand, okay, if I am going to the branch, there will be a teller, there will be a customer grievance, I have to go there. This is how you fill up the form. So you actually make mistakes on your own mobile phone and there is no one to judge you, right? So you make those mistakes, you learn, and if there's a fear that I cannot go to a bank branch, it gets reduced or removed because of that augmented reality. So we will be sharing, it's in progress. So once it is live, we will share that with all of you. Another thing we realized, rightly said, Preeti ji, that online training and monologue training doesn't work. If you're just making a YouTube videos and putting that onto a website or on YouTube, doesn't work. So what we thought is that if a person wants to understand about UPI, why does he has to understand when UPI was started, how to do it? If I am just interested to know how to do a full transaction or how to make a payment, what happens in augmented reality is that you can choose what do you want to learn out of the entire story. And whenever you click on it, it just tells you or teaches you only that part. You don't have to, you're not forced to learn everything just because you want to, say, learn one aspect. So that also give a choice, an immersive experience to the customer. And the last part was Ruski was saying on the WhatsApp video. So it's not for the BC agents, but what we have said, what we have also done a new initiative is that all BC agents are doing a self-promotion. Because now if you see, most of the banking agents are dependent on either BCNM or bank to do a marketing activity, right? Give me a banner, give me a collateral, give me something else. And we thought, if they have a smartphone, can they self-shoot themselves and talk about what are the business they offer, what are the timings they are available on? And obviously, this script was approved by the BC company and the BCNM. They said, okay, this is in line with our marketing norms. So each, then what happened, all BC agents shot their videos on WhatsApp and then started putting on the status, WhatsApp status, started sharing that video with customers on Facebook, where the customers, depending on if someone says on WhatsApp, they can learn, okay, this is a BC agent. And they also offer services beyond cash in, cash out. Like say, I can go and take ABC services. So that also helps them to be confident in talking about their services. It's a peer-to-peer kind of a sharing that, okay, these are the services available. So definitely, Mr. Mohanty, I'm also equally bullish. We as a Grameen Foundation, we are equally bullish on the technology. We can solve a lot. It's just that we have to think in a way in which the customer thinks rather than a top-down approach, because we believe that there has to be training. We've created a module and sent it to them. We probably have to understand that even the basics have remained the same, the customer's need have changed. The person who has never seen a laptop has directly gone to a mobile phone, right? So their expectation will be entirely different. Even though the branch, many of the bank branches still operate on the CRT monitor and also on the board, but the customer has gone directly to a mobile phone. So maybe the training has to be mobile first, has to be gamified. So from there, we actually started with this technology. So yeah, that was some of it.
Piyush seems to be quite excited about the use of augmented reality. I would like to hear from other panelists. Like metaverse is right now a buzzword. This augmented reality and virtual reality are being used across many segments. What do you see can be possible use cases in the BC industry in terms of training and capacitation? Vimal sir, maybe you can take up this question.
Yeah, so Gaurav, I think it's a given. See, if you look at the network that we are handling, we are now approximately 400,000 agents across the country who are contributing to our business. So, anything, if you want to reach them or anything that you want to tell them, is definitely going to happen, or it's going to ride onto these platforms like Facebook. So in fact, in our case, every time we launch a product, it's always a Facebook launch. We have a Facebook live channel which all the people log in and they are able to see and hear from themselves. So obviously these are the this is what we mean by, some kind of a mass communication will always be required. How best we are able to customize it to a individual BC needs or an agent need is the challenge, because this also becomes a little single stroke for the entire country. Whereas I think the diversity of the BC geographically, economically, and every other way has been already underscored by all the speakers here. So that's what the challenge that we are trying to tackle. We are also engaging with trainers who I think can integrate a lot of this local stuff from others, because while at a BC level, still there is a restriction of regulatory restriction of single bank. But at a BC NM level, I think these are all multi-bank. Most of the NMs are multi-bank, and they do bring onto the table a lot of cross fertilization of ideas. And that's, I think, one of the things that we are trying to assimilate for building of our content and the way we disseminate it. One of the other things that I just wanted to bring out here is that many of the BCs are now at a stage where they are treating it like their own business. Instead of being an agent or instead of being somebody dependent for income on something. A very interesting case of a lady in Maharashtra we are working with comes to mind. She has, created a business. She's our number one performer in Maharashtra, and she has now got another agency for her child. And she very proudly mentions that this is like, my employment strategy for my children. A lot of BCs around the country, when we speak, they are, sort of trying to create it as a business which they can give to their children, pass on to their children once they retire or they go out into something else. So I think that's another very interesting trend where the people are trying to make it as their own business. And once it happens, the training needs will explode, because those type of BCs, they put a lot of demand to us in terms of not only product training but techniques. They also want us to tell them how is it happening across the industry, other log kaise kar rahe hain. That's where we expose them to these peer to peer experiences across states, across geographies, which really helps. So I think that's something which I remember when we had started working with CGAP some 10 years back. The question was BC existence. Now the question is BC excellence. So I think somewhere we are coming to that stage where this channel itself will become a next SME. For all you know, it will not be an agent kind of a thing, but it becomes a small or a micro enterprise in its own way, for augmenting not only the knowledge but also the income of a lot of women and rural folks. So that's my thought on this.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts on this particular question, sir. Now the last question from my side, and then we can open up for the audience question. So the last thing I would like the panel to ponder upon is, like, we see a lot of duplication of efforts because multiple organizations are working on capacitation of their BC own network of BC agents. They are developing content, they are developing channels to deliver the same things. But at the same time, like Isha mentioned, there's a lack of effort in kind of making it accessible to all the BCs in terms of, like, it's not available in regional languages. how we can develop a kind of a cross industry cooperation to kind of optimize these efforts. If at all, do you think this is possible that the industry or organizations which are working currently in silos can come together and deliver something that's much more optimized in terms of utilization of the resources and the efforts? So, Mr. Suryakant, maybe we can start from you because you harped upon something similar in your previous suggestions.
Yes, actually, there are so many things. It is really challenging. I won't say it is easy. The question, the answer, everyone knows the answer. The collaboration is the key, probably, pooling the resources, or maybe entities like Grameen, or there are so many, for example, MFI entities, the SROs, or there are many things. But the challenges are still there, and unless or until we address those challenges, for example, I will give a very simple thing. You touched upon this. I think Piyush touched upon this training piece in the SMS, wrong SMS, and building it up as if they could be the advisor in the area. So right now, I am working on a project in which we would be doing all these activities across the Eastern Belt. And I posed this question to the industry. There was a meeting, of industry meeting, and I posed this question to them that whether we should do it and how to do it. You won't believe everyone agreed 100% that we will do this activity and all these things, blah blah, all those things. And once the matter went to the head office and other things, it went array. So it is very difficult. Everybody knows that collaboration is the key. The objective was to sensitize people on not giving the OTP and not clicking on the QR kind of activity. It was very simple as that. Involve police, involve administration, involve everyone, and do that activity on a large scale. At least if every company, it is not about only banking and finance. It might be telecom and everyone. I wanted to involve everyone rather than doing it on a solo basis. So, but everyone has their priorities. So what is the solution? To my mind, it comes key unless and until we have regulators promoting something of this kind, but even if it is not a regulation, at least a nudge to do such kind of thing that, okay, the training needs could be collaborated on. For example, the BC certificate, everyone was doing the training on themselves. Once the BC certification kicks in, everybody now started doing it. There are agencies and all those things comes in. Now, if everyone works on that graded certification, what I was saying, or everyone works on this consolidated training piece, at least on the bare minimum side, which is applicable for everyone, which is applicable actually for everyone. How much different a BC of, say, HDFC Bank or IndusInd Bank is different. It is very minutely, I don't know, but it would be not even 1%. So probably first part, we need to influence the regulators. This is one part of it. Second part of it is creating an ecosystem where it happens based on the market demand. For example, like educational institutes, I'm exploring that option. I have not, got it fully, so I can't tell anything about this. But I am exploring options where the educational institutions on demand provide their activities for these BCs and all those things, where they can accumulate or they can work as a facilitator. So the entities like you can work as the content creator and all those things, and the educational institutes can be the execution and all these things, and all they can both can reach to the companies to get their costing and all those things, and that can work out. So these are very broad thoughts I'm giving. So let's see how industry matures into this. That's one point to see.
Over to you. Yeah, Piyush, would you like to add to that?
No, so definitely, Mr. Montiji, great point. And here I would like to propose, we live in a age now where everything is getting open, right? Open banking, open network for digital commerce, ONDCs. So can we propose something like open network for financial literacy? So what happens there is that organizations like any financial company who has developed any of the content, maybe can whitelist the content or can have their logos as well put into a common resource, and through APIs, anybody can actually consume the content through their own application, right? So it's a very simple method where there is a repository where everybody just uploads, just like a Facebook, and anybody can see it, right? But what you can do is that any common SRO can host that into their own organization. Institutions can fund it, co-fund it. So even beyond regulatory aspects, even I would say through self efforts, we can have those kind of network where probably, let's say, Grameen Foundation uploads the data. Let's say, again, SDFC uploads some data that they have developed as a content. Now, what an institution gets out of this is that if you're uploading the content, then you have access to all the contents that others have uploaded. If you're not uploading the content, if you're not contributing, you cannot take anything from that network, right? So it's a contribution. And then there's a common repository where people can actually go there, learn. BC agents can go to that platform, can learn on their own. And that is now owned by no one, right? It's like a contribution. It's like different institutions where everybody is contributing. And if you're contributing, then only you can take out from it. It will help the small institutions who cannot afford to create a training content, but are participant into the BC agent, right? Because if there's a bigger company, you have a fund, you can develop training content. But if there's a small BCNM which does not have the funds enough to create a content, but they are managing a BC agent on the ground. So since the BCNM does not have a fund, that does not mean that the BC agent mapped to that agency should not have access to the knowledge that they should have in order to serve a customer, right? So which means that we have to democratize in the content that we work in silos. And we also want to now propose that there is something called Open Network of Financial Literacy. It does not exist, just a hypothetical name if you want to go with that network, but it's a collaborative approach and we all have to do. Maybe the regulators will have maybe a limited, I would say, scope or limited, I would say, work on that. But yes, some SROs or someone with a neutral intent rather than a private company, because others will then not contribute if there's a private company because there's a vested interest. So it has to be a neutral company with any of the SROs on any neutral institution. That's what I can propose. But looking forward to your thoughts on how can everybody collaborate in this and tackle with this challenge of giving training at the least of the cost to everyone, even to those who are not privileged enough to develop the content, to learn and to use these kind of technologies. So yeah, thank you, Gaurav.
Yeah, I would love to hear the thoughts of other panel members on what you just proposed.
I wanted to, what Piyush is saying, I believe
Mr.
that's already the norm.
Would you like to take this question?
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Bimal sir, audible.
Oh, okay. So, Piyush, if you look at the financial literacy, I mean, the very definition of financial literacy is that, the very norm of financial literacy is that the bank cannot talk about, its own products. It has to be generic in nature. And that's why I think somewhere, it becomes difficult for banks to implement it because you never know when you cross that thin line, you start talking about your own products and you forget that you're giving financial literacy. So I believe the regulator is already on board as far as democratization is concerned. They have already put a lot of content out. I am talking about Reserve Bank as a regulator. I don't know about other IRDA and everybody, how they are doing it. But as far as the banking regulator is concerned, the democratization process is definitely what they intend. They don't want any bank to be talking about their own particular products. So it cannot be your own marketing in the name of financial literacy. It has to be generic. It has to be broad-based. So I believe from a regulatory standpoint, the platform is already there. Maybe what Surya was saying is the collaboration amongst the entities is something that, somebody is putting it under CSR, somebody is putting it under business expense. So those are the things that I think are more of an impediment than the regulation. Limited point I just wanted to make.
So Gaurav, this is actually a brilliant idea. I'll tell you another very interesting thing. In one of the meeting, the SRO raised a question of funding, that there are funding issues and all those things, blah, blah, blah. So then I tried to solve both the questions in one go. Have a meeting, have a committee of all the training heads all the training heads of all the organizations, create content, post it in YouTube, circulate it, you will get advertising revenue. Your revenue part is resolved. Your content download in an interesting way. Vimal sir, the only disconnect, the point what you said is absolutely right. The only I have the disconnect is whenever it is happening on the regulatory side or on the literacy side, the only hitch I get is it is not in a consumable manner to the actual what is required. It loses its charm in the process of getting ticked all the boxes. Like it should have this, it should have this, it should have this, and by the time वो हम बोलते हैं ना advertisement को पहले से जो शुरू करता है उसको बाद में उसका content बदल जाता है, वो that happens exactly here in the all these tick mark options, that all these things need to happen in the regulatory sphere. It loses its charm. So if it happens under SRO, it might be interesting. You might create viral clips, which just giving an idea. There is no wrong of one BC agent recording his whole day transaction. Obviously, there are limitations on this OTP and all those things, but his feelings. I don't find in YouTube उसका feelings kind of heavy. मतलब मैंने search भी नहीं करा, but it didn't come out as the algorithm also. I have this feeling, I have this kind of thing. So those things will create the information download much faster. It will be doable, and on the coordination piece, it has to be there. It has to be there. Either you compete or you fight. The coordination has to happen. Either you be it a Pepsi Cola or you be it kind of different microfinance companies going to recover money to a single point. It has to be collaboration or competition, but you can't avoid these working together.
No, totally, Surya. What you're saying absolutely makes sense. But let's understand India in any other thing in India. I mean, we have to allow 1,000 flowers to bloom, because there is no one size which will fit all for a country of our size and diversity of our size. Because even in the BC model, if you look at it, you have a whole range of BCs, some of them, a large chunk of them only concentrating on, let's say, remittance. Now, they are not interested in any other part of the business because that's a good money spinner for them. Whereas there is a lady sitting in a rural area whose total 100% income and concentration is on a BC. The outlook of both these personas will be different. One is looking at one very limited aspect, another is looking at a very different kind of a side of it. Having said that, from a certification point of view, I can say that we are working on the regulatory side again, where we are trying to reduce the burden on at least the entry-level BCs. So very soon you may find that the IABF certification itself is bifurcated into a basic and an advanced kind of a course, where an entry-level BC need not go through that kind of a rigor that is required for an advanced level. And you may, of course, find a product differentiation going forward, where entry-level BCs might be allowed certain products, and if you want to graduate to something else, you may have to undergo advanced training. So somewhere that also links it to their income. Like if anybody wants to augment their income, they obviously need to go for a higher certification. So I believe things are happening on that side, but really that's what I was referring to a little while ago, that while we have mass communication like WhatsApp and Facebook, but customizing the content to a single level person or even geographical region becomes a challenge in its own. I believe a lot of it is getting resolved by these BCNMs who are bringing cross-cultural thing, and a lot of peer-to-peer learning is helping on that. That's the only information I have so far on this.
The only point that I would like to make here is that the concept that Piyush suggested, whether SRO can also become like a library, because I agree with what Mr. Vimal said, that yes, everybody has different requirements, different needs, but can it come collectively to some place, and then the BCNMs or whichever agency it is can pick and choose from the content that is available rather than every time creating and generating new models and modules, because certain set of information is constant, that doesn't change. Soft skills are constant, that don't change. So that kind of a content, if it can be kept in a depository or a knowledge base, and then everybody is allowed to choose, and that can be done by the SRO. That could be one possibility. Also, secondly, regulatorily, there are certain requirements, and if that can be aligned and simplified, and some of it can be aligned with this kind of content that is getting created. And thirdly, much of these innovations are happening through donor funding via NGOs or whatever. And if these funding agencies make it mandatory that whatever content you produce should be white label and kept it in a repository and should be made it available to all the VCs, etc. I think that would, in a way, reduce the load of smaller VCs to, BCNM companies to produce content on a regular basis. That is one of my takes. So the funding that goes into constantly innovation and content development, it should be put together into some white label kind of a repository.
Right.
So thanks for contributing all those very relevant points. It's a lot for us to process and imbibe, and we need to build on this conversation to kind of look for a way forward. I would also like to open the floor for audience questions, and I think there are a few for the panel. So Pavna has asked, what are the motivating factors for VC agents to go beyond their role? I think this was harped upon by some of the panel members as well, that there are different priorities of different VCs, and how do we kind of encourage them to take up this learning in a best possible way? If any of the panel members can take this question. Dr. Rushki,
No, so the limited point that I want to speak on this is that, as I said, that while we have been working on the BC model since 2006, it was it kind of started as a totally dependent model on the bank, etc. But now we are finding more white label BCs, so to say, more, people who are taking it as a business. And I think acid test of any such thing is that when more and more people start taking it as a business, they will have self-discovery. They will also put more pressure on their providers for more knowledge, more income, more ways to attract new customers. And that is where, if you look at another trend with the policy push on digital transactions, I believe this cash in cash out transaction progressively will taper down. They will probably come down to a very minimal level. In that situation, a lot of these BCs will have to up their game, where they will have to get into the product space from the cash transaction based kind of a model which they are having. And which I see beautifully happening. People who are actually serious about the business, they pick up these trends and they, start modeling. So I believe the motivation definitely would be, if you are taking it as a vocation, if you're taking it as your business, it will definitely motivate you to go beyond what you are doing today. It will definitely make you feel the pulse of the times and look at all these trends which are going around and then act accordingly. Other than that, it remains an academic push from anybody, be it regulator, be it the banks, whatever. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. Dr. Rushki, if you would like to add to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also feel that there's a lot more which can be done currently if it's only transaction based, and because the space is the same. There is so much more that can be done. So, a bank, for an example. So, the same BC agent can help you do a lot of cross sell, bring in maybe a tractor loan lead or any other lead. So, even lead generation. So, can be brought in by the same BC agent. What is required here is to build capacities of the BC agent to, translate and disseminate correct information to the target audience, to the beneficiary or a probable customer, and to be able to link it up correctly. And all of this also should, at the end of the day, help this BC agent to earn extra income. So if these things are, stitched in properly, I think definitely there's a lot more which they can do, and this can become a more successful model in that way. Yep.
Thank you for that. In the interest of time, would like to close the discussion. Thanks for all those engaging points that you guys made. And our team will be collating all the discussion points and working towards how we can integrate in our future efforts. I think some of the key points that all of you guys agreed upon was that we have to look towards the value that we are able to create for the BCs exactly through all our whatever efforts that we are taking. And I think we are very much in line with that particular sentiment. So handing over to my colleague Ritika for the closing remarks.
Thank you, Gaurav. Good afternoon, everyone. It was really insightful to be a part of this webinar. On behalf of the Grameen Foundation India, I extend a hearty thanks to the audience for actively participating in the session. I express my gratitude to all of our panelists for taking out their time, being with us and leading this engaging and thoughtful discussion. A very sincere thanks to our moderator, presenter, and speakers of the session for wonderfully driving the webinar. A big thanks to the BEATS team for diligently planning, executing, and conducting this very important webinar. With this, I would like to close the day and wish you all a great day ahead. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.